The Hindu texts of authority, say the Vedic scriptures, talk about reverence for all life. All life. All living things are very special, they say. The thing is, underpinning this reality, when it manifests in the material world, it's still very sacred. But when it becomes visible as a living thing, even a little bacteria, when it becomes visible as a living thing, give it reverence. It's sacred. It's something special. It's not just matter. Something else is popping up through matter. So they say, give reverence to all living things. All living things, full stop. This is the teachings of the Vedic scriptures. Does it make a demarcation that, okay, meat is not okay, meat is okay? Doesn't make that distinction. Please be careful. Even the people, Hindus will say, no, it's there, written in the Veda. It's not. I have not seen any such mention. So why do we become vegetarian, and how did vegetarians come into Hinduism? I'll tell you the reason. One of the traditions that came out of India, Indic tradition, is the Jain tradition. It's as ancient, roughly as ancient as Hinduism. It goes back 2,500 years with Mahavir Swami as a historic figure. Now the Jain tradition paid tremendous emphasis on idea of non-violence. Means don't step on another life form. They paid tremendous reverence. In fact, today, the central teaching of Jainism is not God, non-violence, ahimsa. And that is very important. So the Jain tradition said, okay, we have to live on other living things. Look, all of us, look, I'm a vegetarian, but I have to crunch and munch on vegetables and apples and all that fruit. They are living things, and Vedic scriptures say all living things are sacred. So I'm going against the teachings. I can't, if I don't eat fruit and vegetable, I'll die. So even if I'm vegetarian, I'm living off other living things. Just recognize it. I'm stuck. Until we find some chemicals on which we can live, we are stuck to live on other living things. The only thing with vegetarianism is this is what it says. It says, look, rather than live on the most evolved animal form or living form, why don't you live off the least evolved living form? So funguses, grass, vegetables are less evolved than, say, animals. So they say live on the least evolved thing rather than the most evolved thing. That's the only thing you can say. Nothing in the Vedic scripture saying here demarcation. But I'm just talking to you as just a rationalist. If you want to live on other living things, try and live on the least evolved so you don't feel so bad. When you come closer and closer to the human kingdom, you feel a little bit unhappy, bit uneasy about eating other living things. Because when you look at the cow or the goat or whatever, the sheep or the chicken, they seem to be almost, coming close to the human condition. They've got babies and they love their babies and they look after this and they've got all the feeling, the scream when you hurt them. So you can't say, oh, they are meant here for our human consumption. The Abrahamic tradition, they're meant for human consumption. Indic tradition, think for yourself. They're too close for comfort. So that is why this idea of vegetarianism crept in. But let me be very blunt. And this will go back to India. They did research, 60 or 70% of Hindus in India, not here, 60 to 70% of Hindus in India eat meat, fish, seafood or eggs. See, majority of Hindus in India eat meat, fish, seafood or eggs. You can't, the whole of Bengal eats fish. So you can't say, oh, because you eat fish, you are living off, you are horrible, you are not vegetarian, so you are a horrible monster, you're no longer Hindus. We can't say stuff like that. Because the Vedic scripture never said that. It simply says you can put a demarcation based on your own particular stand. Suppose you say, I've been brought up in a meat-eating family, I'm comfortable, good for you. We don't say, oh, stop it. But this is the only reasoning behind why vegetarianism crept into India. But let me tell you something else, because it's necessary for us to point out. The modern ecological sciences are now clearly telling us that if the world becomes more vegetarian, it is better, it will reduce the greenhouse effect. When you have the idea, you have got grass, vegetables with the animals eat, and then you eat the animals, there's an extra chain. It creates more carbon dioxide and creates more kind of greenhouse effect. So the ecological reason now are telling us, hang on guys, eating meat is no longer perhaps a good idea. And the other thing that I like when I go to English schools, especially girls' schools, quite a lot of English girls are vegetarian. I say, why? They say, we don't like the idea of cruelty to animals that are prepared for human consumption. Because if you look at the factory farming, it will make you shudder. You say, I don't want to eat meat now. Because it's so frightening. The way you butcher an animal, kill it, is frightening. So the fact that you are kind of giving so much suffering to the animals who are very close for comfort, they are close to the human kingdom, is one of the reasons why many people become vegetarian. Suffering given to animals bred for human consumption. And therefore, nowadays, of course, with medical research, they're also suggesting that vegetarian diet is better for your health. These are various reasons why you can say I want to adopt vegetarianism, but not because it's rubber stamped by Hinduism. Be very careful. There are some Hindu lobbies who are very keen to say, unless you are vegetarian, you're not a practicing Hindu. In fact, I was on a ZTV program recently. There was one guy, he was an absolute nutty guy. He said, if you eat meat, Mr. Lakhani, I said, I don't, but if you eat, then you are not a practicing Hindu. I said, then 70% of Hindus in India are no longer Hindus with your definition. It's a kind of outlandish way of trying to define Hinduism. Hinduism is not a vegetarian menu. So we recognize, we don't feel, you said the important thing is you have to survive. And suppose you have no choice but to eat animal. Look, in the time of drought, when you don't have any vegetation, even in India, I'm telling you a true story, in India, during drought, people who are vegetarian were forced to eat meat to survive. So recognize, this idea that it's a very, and in fact, we are in a way cursed to live off other living things. This is the best way to respond to this.
Free e-learning course in Hinduism. To register, please visit www.hindu-academy.com.
Talks on Hinduism, sponsored by People Care, encouraging caring for the elderly in their own homes. For more information, please visit peoplecare.com.